Hello everybody, welcome to another solo adventure with me, Christian Schiller, where I play. I'm just going to do a very quick bit of camera adjustment, getting a bit of a head cut off, but that's okay. Where I play solo board games, roleplay games, storytelling games, interactive fiction. I play them solo and tell you a story usually through a game. Today is going to be part 3 of Creatures Such as We, and by Linea Glasser. I think it will be the final part. I have found that if I go over 3 parts with these, it gets a little hard for people to know what's happened before and keep the narrative going and things like that. So this will probably be the final part, and we'll just see where we get to. Someone's ringing the doorbell, of course, just as I'm streaming. That always happens. And also, you may have noticed that this stream has moved from Thursday to Friday. I'm spacing out my streams a little bit. I probably didn't really announce that or anything like that. I just decided to move it today. This will be the new slot. I might make it slightly earlier, we'll see. But also from next week, the look and the feel of things will change a little bit too. So there'll be a little bit more focus on the visual elements than having all these borders and things like that. But I'm going to experiment with getting that working next week, so for the next episode. But until then, let's carry on with this episode. If you're joining for the first time, if you want to help me make decisions as we go, then please just jump in the chat of whatever channel you're watching on, and I'll be glad to have that. So let's recap a little bit. Creatures Such as We are working for kind of tourist services on the moon in an indeterminate time. And we love our video games. And the creators of one of our favorite video games has just come as guests to the space station. Actually, the moon base, I suppose, not necessarily the space station. One of them became sick. We're not quite sure why. We had a little bit of a scuffle with our boss and trying to get some of our underlings to take care of things. And we had a couple of interesting discussions and a couple of interesting, potentially awkward or potentially romantic, who knows, moments with some of the guests. And we were talking here about games and the meta discussion behind games. It's a very kind of meta story, this, I must admit. And we got to dinner on the end of the first day, and we got to time to relax, and this is where we came from. If this is your first time watching this, I suggest you go back and watch episode 1 and 2 first. I will struggle to remember what happened before. If you haven't seen the other 2 parts, you'll have even less idea. So, with that said, let's begin. So, I am playing the game again that I like. The game creates a new save file for you as the prologue starts. Your character walks into a medical facility, past the television, looping anti-zombie political arguments from the recently missing activist Senator Lores, and up to the check-in counter. The receptionist, a zombie, stands and waves you along. "Come with me. They're ready for you," he chats as he walks. "I'm glad you've elected to take the procedure. It's quite simple, and you can't imagine how fantastic you feel afterward when your body is constantly at its best." He directs you into a room with 2 smiling zombies wearing lab coats. The room has a full wall mirror on one side, and as your character turns to look at the reflection in the mirror, you see yourself as a zombie. And the game fades into the character select tool. Which gender do you choose for yourself? I guess we should reiterate here we're playing a game in the game. I did tell you it's meta. Previously, I went for a kind of non-determinate gender. I might stick with that. Though I wish there were more choices. The character creation was kind of nagging you the first time you went through character creation, but now the oversimplified options feel just totally glaring. How can you put yourself into the game with so much diversity stripped out? Maybe the lack of choice is something you can ask them about later. I will go for female then. And then, which base skin color do you choose for yourself? I think I'm going to go again. Let's see what happens. Feels really glaring here. Why not offer more options that reflect real people? All right, I will go for African. All of the options unlock, and the reflection solidifies into a preset zombified face. You have sliders where you can make minor adjustments, bone structure, hairstyles, facial scars, body size. What sort of look are you going for with your zombie? And it's interesting here, I'm actually writing a zombie novel right now for NaNoWriMo, so this is somewhat surreal. Absolutely ruthless, gruff and troubled, lean and creepy, strict and no nonsense, beautifully stunning, sweet and kind, hit random until I find something I like, just stick with the default. If you have any suggestions, then jump into the chat and let me know. I am open to suggestions from the room, as it were. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go for hit random. Okay, going. Gone. Random it is. You're not exactly what you want, but you know it needs to look awesome. You hit the randomizer a bunch of times, noting and comparing different cool settings that could maybe work together. Yeah, that looks good. Then you notice a button you didn't before. Use previous appearance. Well, shit. You like the new look you've got now, but you're also a bit attached to the old appearance. Which one do you use? I'm going to go for the new appearance, I think. I don't know what it is, so let's go for it. With that settled, you continue the game. The man takes a cutely timid step forward. Hey there, I'm the technician that will be assisting with scans and x-rays, monitoring your progress to make sure that the transition happens smoothly. He practically purrs. I really look forward to working with you. The woman immediately follows. I'm the phlebotomist. I'll be monitoring the doctor administering the initial injection and then taking your blood for periodic testing. I hope you won't hold it against me too much, she gently teases. The receptionist turns to you. Well, you can either get your pre-injection scans or blood work knocked out first. Who would you like to go with? It's hard to decide between the two. I am not a personal fan of injections, so I'm going to go for the technician. The phlebotomist practically pouts. Oh, well, are you sure? I don't have anyone else scheduled for another 15 minutes. The technician teases the phlebotomist. Come on now, stop trying to steal all the cute ones for yourself. He shoots your character a devil-may-care smile and points to the door. Let's go get those scans done. Yep. He leans in close while leading your avatar down a hallway. So, what made you decide to make the transition now? I hear that even Lores is shutting up about it now, after her son... An explosion interrupts his sentence, and the camera view shakes wildly. A ringing noise drowns out background shouting, and you hear more blast noises. The camera pans over to show the technician grab your arm and bite. Then everything fades to black. Vision returns, focused on the ground. Your avatar looks at her hands. They've turned ashen grey, and you can see flesh reconstructing a gash in real time. You stand up and look over to the technician. He has multiple pieces of debris piercing and pinning him to the ground. He waves over at you. Oh, thank goodness you're all right. Listen, we need to get out of here, and I need your help. You're going to have to rip apart my body and then allow it to reconstruct itself. Your character recoils as the technician continues. Oops. I've been thinking about this while you've been out. It's the only way. Please. You assess his body. The torso is pinned, but most of the pressure seems to be on a single pipe. If you ripped the body in half, it should be possible to rejoin the halves afterward. How do you start the process? Pull apart with claws, bite apart with my fangs, cut apart. I feel like claws is probably the best option. The technician winces as your avatar rips and pulls. The flesh tries to reconstruct itself, so you have to work quickly and decisively. You notice The internal organs retract as you pull more and more of the body apart. Finally, all you have left is the spinal column. Your avatar digs both hands into his back and pulls from both sides, snapping it in half. Your avatar pushes together the parts and allows them to start reforming. The technician moans and sits up. "Thanks. You're the best. I'm sorry that I rushed you through the procedure, but it looks like that bite saved both our lives. I'm Elegy, by the way." A self-chosen name after turning, you're sure. Elegy looks your avatar over and smiles. You hear movement, see uniforms in the distance. A military rescue worker runs up. "Any survivors? Any survivors?" I should probably. I don't really need much help here, so help Elegy. The worker runs towards your character and reaches into a pack of supplies. Then you hear a gunshot in the distance. Time seems to slow as you see the hatred in her eyes, the incorrect details in the uniform, the visible glint of a gun in the pack. The game constructs a quick projective cutscene of her murdering you both. But it hasn't happened yet. The woman is still reaching for the gun. Elegy jumps onto her, biting and clawing. You have to help. See, I'm a little confused here. So turn her gun against her. I'm not 100% sure what's going on, but it seems reasonable, I suppose. You pounce at the fake rescuer. She struggles against Elegy and fires once, twice. Elegy crumples, but the rescuer doesn't have time to turn against you. You rip her hand off from her arm and pull out the gun. You kick her down and fire the remaining bullets into her. Elegy was not so lucky. The shots hit his head. That's not survivable. The only hope Elegy has is if you help him become ethereal. But your character has no idea how it's done. Well, last time you picked the option to hold the body, but maybe anything works? I kind of like the idea of using your blood in the wound, unless anyone else has any ideas. Okay. It hisses and steams. You have to cut deep to get ahead of your own self-healing and to use enough to cover the whole brain and all its scattered locations. The steam condenses and coalesces into a floating blue flame. Sounds like a cool game, by the way. Someone should make this. He floats up, down, then rotates and expands, playing with his new body. He is now immortal, but at the cost of being practically immaterial. Elegy regards the remains of his body. What a seamless waste. I didn't even get to eat anyone's brains. He turns to you. Maybe we could fix that together. Some gunshots in the distance startle both the characters. The level is about to start. What preparation should you do before things get serious? I think we should search the body for weapons. You manage to find additional ammo, but no information. Disappointing. Elegy approaches your character, a flitting light. The air around him glows. We should work together. Merge. It'll make you more powerful, and now that I'm like this, well, I need a new job for starters. Say, okay, just for now. Famous last words. Elegy floats in front of your avatar, bouncing left and right in hesitation. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous about it too. Speaking of which, forgive me if I don't do it quite right. But as the merging starts, Elegy trails off and your avatar glows blue, smiling and spreading delight. It must feel amazing. A real feeling of warmth and belonging washes over your body as you watch. A new piece of the HUD pops up. Ghost power. It also glows bright blue. You chuckle at how much smaller it looks compared to the bar you've gotten used to at the end of the game. You approach your first set of foes, more disguised rescue workers searching for survivors. How do you take them out? Well, seeing as actually, ghost powers, I think, sounds way cooler than much else. Anyone else got any suggestions? Guns? Biting and clawing? Stealth? Ghost powers. I think ghost powers is really winning. All right, ghost powers it is. Your avatar channels magical balls of energy and lightning through her one hand, flinging them into foes from a distance while holding up the other into a force field against bullets. At one point, an enemy tries to sneak up behind you, but you melee bash him with the force field before he can even get in a hit. You enjoy Elegy's quips and goads as you tear through the bodies. You're glad you didn't send him away. Your body tingles at the rush. Thanks to story mode, the fighting portion is actually a lot shorter, and soon the level ends and the game congratulates you. You breeze through the next level, where the Department of Revenant Dignity inducts you as a new recruit. Your progress saves. One step closer to the finish. You can't wait to reach the ending. This time, it will go better, you're certain of it. But that'll have to be another day. The stress of the day catches up with you, and you can feel that you should have gone to bed an hour ago. You power down and Velcro back into your bed. Things are looking good. Time for sleep. Remarkably, it's your alarm that wakes you up, as opposed to a page in the middle of the night from a guest wanting booze or their personal medication stash stored in sickbay. You actually feel refreshed enough to look forward to dealing with breakfast buffet duties. You could get used to these guests. They're so damn polite. It's too bad they have to leave so soon, but that's just how it has to be. Just continue keeping them distracted. It'd be nice to isolate Grant. It'd be nice to just to tell them about the evacuation. Evacuation? Not quite sure. Not sure what the evacuation is. Let's continue keeping them distracted, I guess. As long as they don't suspect anything, they won't have the opportunity to complain or make a fuss. Just keep things going as planned, and it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. You fold up your sheet and stretch, contemplating the itinerary. Breakfast, moonwalking, their business meeting, lunch, gymnastics, free swim time, one more night of sleep, and then tomorrow morning, bright and early, they'll all get shipped out. It's going to go fine today. Today is going to be fine. So let's get ready for it. Quick shower, minimal makeup. Efficient, to the point, just what's needed. You finish up by brushing your teeth and fixing your hair. Yes, I can't really emulate this. You check the mirror really quickly, good looking as ever. You hasten off to the kitchen to start carting out the breakfast good. Rehydrated scrambled eggs, repli-beat sausages, a few fruits, specially sealed fish, cereals, and the most difficult but underappreciated baked goods. You plant yourself next to the spread. Now the only thing left to do is stand and wait. The perk of free entry breakfast means you're tasked to stand around and smile for an hour. To be a scarecrow against greedy tourists taking too much food. Well, and of course, you have to get them drinks if they want it. The door opens right at the start of the breakfast hour, and you smile brightly for James, who seems unusually chipper himself. You greet him. I'm going to go for good morning. Seems to be a nice, obvious first thing to say, really. Okay. James smiles back. Thanks. Say, are they still cold mornings here on the dark side of the moon? He gives the food a cursory scan, glances around the room, and sidles up to you. Hey, listen. I wanted to ask you something since nobody else is here. He glances around again as though to double check. About creatures. Well, games in general. I take it that you liked Elegy, right? I think I will go to Elegy was kind of fun. He pours himself an orange juice. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I mean, you could form a romantic connection with Elegy, but it's kind of considered part of the expected game experience. I mean, a lot of people find that aspect fun, but there's no place where in-game love interest will ever seriously tell you no. The entire relationship dynamic is up to the player, and that worries me. Like maybe we're not sending the right message about consent. Yeah, these decisions are very meta and sometimes difficult. I don't know if anyone wants to help me here. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go for the second one. I don't really feel like I know enough personally about games to go for anything deeper than that. So he starts loading up the tray with repli meat, bacon, and eggs. It's true that real relationships are complicated, and maybe these games scratch that itch. I don't know. I'm still worried about there not being a clear enough delineation between the fantasy and the reality. I'm still worried about people getting their cues from the fantasy world and wishing they could apply it to real life. I feel like option 3 is the most realistic response. It's getting a very difficult topic of conversation here in some respects. He frowns. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you have relationship experts on staff? Maybe get them to weigh in on what makes something healthy? But I feel like that'd just be a surface sweep to weed out totally abusive dynamics. I don't have any good thoughts on how to address the underlying system to accommodate consent. Wow. Let's say option 2, a game with real rejection stakes, I think. James nods. Yeah, but how do you implement that? Randomly generated romanceable versus non-romanceable characters? Affection thresholds? Any way you cut it, the NPC can always be gamed if you just brute force it like a total creep. Well, unless you made a game where NPCs would always reject you, no matter what. But then, what kind of fun would that be? I don't know. I think I'll go for option 1 here. This conversation is getting hard for me to know the right answer, really. I don't think there is a right answer. James smiles and blushes. Thanks. That means a lot from you. He looks at his fully loaded plate. Well, anyway, thanks for indulging my rambling. He glances nervously about the empty room. Going to grab a seat. He looks a bit uncertain sitting all by himself, but apparently decides to respect your professional duties. You peek at the clock. Just most of the hour left. After a few minutes, Ren and Grant walk in together. It's a relief to see Grant up and about around the other tourists. It will help them think that everything's fine, that there's nothing to worry about. They nod at you cordially and load up their trays, sitting down next to James to chat. Eventually, they three pick up their plates and deposit them politely in the dirty dish bin. You shift your weight and check the time. You've passed the halfway mark. You stretch and then straighten up as Diana drags herself in, greeting you with a long Let's go for something different now. This time, please help yourself to food. She wipes away from sleep from her eyes and then starts pouring herself some coffee. Diana sips from the mug. I conveniently have one here. And sighs softly before putting the mug down on a tray. She glances at you, then up at the glass ceiling, but the stars are hard to see with the extra breakfast interior lights on. She turns back at you. Why do you think we make art? You startle. It's not really something you've given much thought for before now. I think the most general answer, not necessarily the most accurate answer, but the most general answer to cover all bases is the first one. I hope. Let's see. Diana scrunches her nose while drinking her coffee. Yeah, but what makes it fun? What do we enjoy so much about art that it permeates every age, every culture? What do we enjoy about it so much? We love the beauty of art simplicity. It's the kind of world we wish we could be real. I don't really agree with any of these options. This is partially true, but not always. This is not necessarily true. This is not really true. This is not really true. I think I will go for the most egotistical option. I don't know if that's the right option, but anyway. She snirks out a self-amused laugh. Yeah, I suppose that's a part of it. We like feeling like we're important, like we've made a difference, left an impact. Her eyes glimmer mysteriously. But the real question is what we think we're getting out of it. What's the point of creating a legacy if you're not around to see it? Yeah, I think option number 2 is a nice one. She raises an eyebrow. Well, that's definitely true. I've enjoyed lots of art in my day, and I guess I like giving back, having the change to add to that exchange of ideas. Her eyes darken. Well, I should say I've enjoyed some art. There's nothing I hate more than vapid nothingness. And that trash is so much more frustrating when you're actually trying to create something that's interesting, something that has a message. She continues on. Do people value deeper meanings in their games? Or is gaming all wrapped up in the superficial appeal? I think option 3 is kind of the most realistic here. So Diana breathes out a sigh of relief. Yeah, I suppose so. And that says something. People prefer a well-rounded experience. They definitely care about meaning in their stories, at least on some level. All hope is not lost. Diana glances down at her empty tray, as though just remembering its existence. I guess I should actually get something to eat. But thank you for hearing me out. I really do appreciate it. She distractfully spoons a bunch of random foods onto her plate and then goes to sit down. You don't even have time to look up at the clock before Sadri and Andreas enter the airlock. They giggle at the spread. Andreas makes a crack about the food being the same as back on Earth as the two of them load up their plates. Andreas gets fairly close to warranting a ration-reminding cough, but they leave to sit down with Diana before you have to resort to that. After a few minutes, they all have finished up and walk out laughing. They wave you off as they leave. You're left alone with all the trays to replace and the leftovers to put away. The glories of being a space tour guide. At least the moonwalk is next. One second. Excuse me. That's always the high point of any visit. And then tomorrow, they'll all be gone. That sinks in. Tonight's the last night you'll see any of them ever again. You feel a little empty just thinking about it. But then, of course, that was always going to be the case. Even if you had a few more days together. It's It's such a rare treat to meet tourists who are so interesting and friendly. You'll miss it. Do excuse me for 1 minute. That's better. Sorry about that. Okay. Moonwalk, eh? Even though you did it just yesterday, you inspect everyone's suits again. You text a notification to the group that the moonwalk is ready, and they all show up promptly. This really is an amazing group. They're even wearing the right outfits. Full coverage clothing and long socks. You put out the ping on your walkie-talkie that suiting assistance will soon be needed. This will be the smoothest moonwalk ever. You stand up to address the group. What do you emphasize in the safety briefing? I think for this lot, it's going to have to be the fun. I don't know if that's the correct answer, but I think it seems the appropriate answer. You clear your throat and address the crowd. Listen, this is definitely one of the most dangerous parts of your stay here, but it's also the most fun. You'll get to wear a spacesuit, leave footprints in the moon dust, and my personal favourite, see the night sky on the dark side of the moon. We will be taking pictures to memorialise the experience, but in order for everything to go smoothly, you need to stay within the bounds of the field lights. There will be several Space Joy employees out walking with us. If anything goes poorly, or even if you just like to stop early, one of us will be happy to escort you back. The outside entrance has a large panel button to open it. No keys or codes required. They all nod and look around for what to do next. You gesture around to the arriving stewards. Like putting on medieval armour, myself and the other stewards will help you get into your suits to make sure it's all fixed up. Then we'll get suited ourselves, and after a quick systems and pressure check, we'll be on our way. James waves at you from across the room. Ooh, he wants you to help him. Well, we don't have very long. Maybe it's a bit keen. I get the feeling with this character we need to just take the opportunities whilst they present themselves. Sure. He grins excitedly. I'm glad to know that I'll be getting assistance from the best. He looks at your eyes, glances at your lips, then back at your eyes before breaking the tension. So what do we do next? Your face flushes at the closeness. You try to maintain composure as you meet his gaze. I'll need to take your measurements. He steps closer and holds out his arms. So then, measure away. You pull out some old-fashioned measuring tape and hold it against him. Height, arms, shoulders. You brush up against his arm. The unexpected contact sends shivers down your spine. Oh man, this is bad news. He is so off limits. Well, not technically, but practically. You cough and straighten up, doing your best to conceal the warm blush spreading over your face. But James looks just as affected as you are, grinning madly and avoiding eye contact. Fantastic. Oh, but also terrible. You smile back, despite yourself. Have to go get the suit now. You practically sprint off. Just how bad is this? I think option 3. It's not a good idea, but what the hell? There's certainly no reason not to have some fun. There's nothing wrong with flirting after all. You run your fingers over crate labels until you find the one that's the best fit. It's slightly too big around the waist, but people usually suck it in for the measurements anyway. You haul out the crate of suit parts. You take your time helping into each piece of the suit. They're designed to be sturdy, flexible, and simple for the wearer, but that means they require a lot of work from the assisting valet. Layers, seals, buckles, electronic tests. You squint your face in concentration. Finally, you finish and step back. How do I look? He asks. ready for anything. James strikes a heroic pose, but then loses it in a fit of giggles. You clap and bow, but seeing as how almost everyone else is nearly ready, it's high time you got suited up as well. Your box has already been pulled out by another steward. You do your best to avoid eye contact. Your position feels privileged enough without being in a position where they have to act as your servant. You start with the pants, what looks and feels like plastic-infused canvas cloth. Then you lean on him as he helps you step into the ski boot-like armoured shoes. He bolts on your greaves and knee guards as you slip into the plastic canvas jacket. Then your least favourite part, the plating around your chest that goes down just past your natural waist. There goes most of your flexibility. Then the butt guard and adjustments to the back harness. You wiggle your fingers into the inner gloves, then the outer gloves that he holds open for you. He smooths your hair back to slip on the canvas hood, and then straps on the gauntlets and elbow guards, turning on the left gauntlet's electronic control panel. You feel a sudden down and backwards pull as two stewards load your pack onto the back harness, the battery, oxygen and communications antenna. They hover behind you with digipads hooked up to several electronic ports all over your suit. All pre-helmet systems check out. You thank your co-worker profusely as your adrenaline starts pumping. You're about to go into space. This never ceases to feel amazing. You look over at the tourists and fellow employees' chaperones. Let's go exploring. They all follow your lead to the airlock. You instruct everyone to lock on their helmets. HUD and comm check. Everybody reply. You get excited confirmation pings from everyone. The interior airlock door seals behind you. The air evacuation starts. This is the point where if someone's going to panic, they do. Cramped interior, the point of no return. How do you reassure everyone? How's everyone doing? Let's go for a nice middle ground. You get a few mumbled good and okay affirmations from the group, but being pulled up to the top of the roller coaster is not the time when people are feeling all that talkative. There's a small spike in oxygen used from the general group, but nothing out of the ordinary. Everyone using the airlock at once enforces a sort of herd mentality where emotional states are mostly shared. It highly discourages panic, at least for the single minute it takes to drain the chamber. And then the outer airlock opens. You bounce out backwards and gesture for everyone to follow. There's some hesitation, that slow tourist pace, and then they finally follow. They gawk at it all. The moon dust landscape, the universe above, the moon base exterior, each other in spacesuits. They're in the palm of your hands. The other stewards fan out, prepared to take pictures, roll video, and potentially deal with any emergencies. While the suits have 3 hours of oxygen and warmth, you always give a 30-minute buffer. Considering that some people have already burned 15 minutes before getting out, that's 2 hours, 15 minutes left of exploration. Which activity do you start them on first? Show off the universe. Let's start with the big wow. You call all the tourists to you. Listen everyone, to me. I'm going to shut off the exterior lights. We're going to take the opportunity to look up at the universe. Everyone tilts their heads up expectantly. The lights dim before turning off, so as not to be frighteningly sudden. And then it's there. Nothing but the uninterrupted universe. No sun, no light, no atmosphere, no reflection from Earth. Just the unending, beautiful eternity. There are audible sighs and gasps. You're certain you hear someone sniffling back a few tears, but you give them the benefit of not checking whose audio trace it was. You could talk to them about specific features, but you just let them silently enjoy the view. Everyone seems completely engrossed in looking up at space. You've got 2 hours before you should think about returning everyone to base. What do you do next? Let's describe the moon base. Let's go to something very practical. You direct everyone to look back at the building. That's Space Joy's good old Moonbase 14. From here you can see the massive storage tanks of water, oxygen and other atmospheric gases. You can also see the exteriors of employee personnel areas and storage bulkheads. On the other side is our observation room and dining area, strategically opposite the exploration area so that the glare from the searchlights and dust clouds don't interfere with the enjoyment of those areas. And of course you can see the openings for our protective dome. We raise it whenever we have warnings of a meteorite shower, or if we are undergoing any sort of tourist-free maintenance. And in case anyone was wondering, we call them meteoroid showers instead of meteor showers because we have no atmosphere on the moon to burn up the meteoroid into a meteor. Nobody really seems all that interested. They spend some time posing for photos. Now I think it's time for some lunar exploration. You encourage the tourists to fan out and explore the local landscape. They slowly jump around to different spots within the exploration bounds, where Space Joy recreates a natural-looking environment of small hills, craters, and rocks. Sadri climbs down into a small crater, enjoying the chance to look closer at eye-level moon dust. Ren jumps down and enjoys her, delighting at the deliberately placed asteroid in the center. Diana kicks some dust into the crater. James starts walking the paces of the boundaries, trying to determine the area of the playscape, while Grant jumps higher and higher, trying to determine the limits of spacesuit height on the moon. Andreas gently tosses a small rock, amazing over how long it goes before touching the ground. Everyone seems to be having an amazing time. Let's describe the moon dust, seeing as they seem to be interested in it. You launch into tourist mode. So the moon dust, or lunar regolith, has created over 4.4 billion years of asteroids beating and battering the surface. The dust was further shaped by a process known as space weathering. With its exposure to cosmic rays, the stuff is actually considered a nuisance by most spacefaring endeavours. It's rough, more reactive than Earth's soil, and sticks to everything. But that's why we wash our suits off before returning back into the base, so feel free to enjoy it however you want. Ren bends down and picks up some dust, enjoying watching it sift through her fingers. James attempts to throw a clump of dust like a snowball at Sadri, who ducks out the way. Diana starts drawing out a pattern in the dust by dragging her feet, while Andreas and Grant just fascinate over the footprints they leave behind. The spacesuit shoes are specially designed to imitate the iconic moon boot pattern, and you feel a twinge of guilt remembering the time that Space Joy actually attempted to copyright that pattern. They really seem to be getting into the spirit of moon fun. An hour and 15 minutes. We haven't done these lunar props yet. You summon over 3 remote-controlled replicas of an ancient moon rover. These can be controlled with the button panels of your suit's gauntlet. Try them out. James and Diana claim one, working together to pretend like they're taking soil samples and scientific measurements. They actually coordinate quite well together. Andreas and Grant get overly competitive, steering the other 2 rigs in a race. Sadri allies herself with Grant, turning the race into a robot battle by using the digging arm to poke at Andreas's robot. Ren voices her concerns about damaging the equipment, but you reassure that it's perfectly fine. They're designed to be durable. She pauses, then evens the score by controlling Andreas's robot to attack Grant's rig. They all seem to be having a great time. But then it happens before any of the chaperones could stop it. Grant jumps too close to James and they accidentally collide. James is propelled backwards, and despite all his backpedaling hand gyrations, there's no atmosphere to push back against and right himself. You start bounding over to assist, but he starts screaming at the realization of the unstoppable fall. Grab me, grab me, grab me, grab me! And then he lands hard against his backpack. The suit's designed to take it, but it can be a frightening experience. The excessive oxygen intake alarm triggers as James graduates into a full-blown panic attack. My suit is torn, my suit is going to tear, my pack was damaged, my oxygen is leaking out, it's leaking out. He starts thrashing, unable to right himself in his panic. This spikes his oxygen even more. You're just a few steps away. Let's go for wait for me to help you. James stops thrashing and latches onto this. Please, please help me. You're the only one I trust. You pick him up as he continues with the panicked babbling. Please, I just want to get out of here. You feel pity for James as you lead him back to the entrance. That kind of panic in front of a group can be hard to live down. And of course, it puts a damper on everyone else's enjoyment. Which makes an interesting conundrum. You can escort and calm down James, or you could stay with the rest of the group and focus on keeping them calm instead. Well, I can't really just leave him, I suppose. We'll escort him out. You lead James back to the airlock and opt for the smaller, faster emergency lock. You warn James about the upcoming safety procedure. We're going to be cleaned off with water jets. It's to keep the moon dust out of the base. It will only take a minute and it's perfectly safe. You get no reply. He must just be totally numb about it all right now. Water jets hose you both down from all directions, but James doesn't even react, just stands there, head down, occasionally taking a step back to help buffer against the pressure. The silence is heartbreaking. Should you say something? Go for the last option. Your offer of comfort hangs in the air for a long time. The jets stop and the water drains. James finally speaks. I just wanted to get away from things. Sorry that I freaked out back there. And I mean, I knew I was fine. I knew it'd be okay, but I couldn't stop it. I couldn't get a hold of myself. He slumps down and collapses against the bulkhead. It's terrifying losing control of yourself. I mean, you always think that your mind, your brain is at least yours. That you can control your mind, but you can't. He seems more frightened by how his brain illogically reacted. James finally speaks. I really lost it back there. Oh man, I really just freaked about nothing. He slumps down and collapses against the bulkhead. It's horrible knowing that you can just lose control of your senses like that. Your fears just take over and you make into this complete other person and you feel like you're just witnessing someone else. Ugh, it's creepy. Go for the first option. He sighs. I think that's exactly why it's frightening, because it feels like there's this other me inside. I mean, not like a split personality, but you know, something you can't stop. Something that's not entirely you. He looks down at the stewards helping him undress, then backs up to you. I mean, I'm glad it doesn't reach Twilight Zone levels, but then again, maybe having something else kick in when we're afraid is what saves us, protects us. Is that what it takes to deal with the sheer terror of existence? Is there another way? I think this option. James shakes his head grimly. I guess I can't argue with that. I guess we made it this far with that functionality. We just have to deal with life how it is. You can't help but agree. You glance at the other stewards and gesture at the suits. They sigh and oblige, packing away both his gear and yours as you start escorting James back to his room. With every passing second, you could feel Space Joy's official reprimand transforming into a commendation for helping talk down James. Although at this point, you're just happy that you're able to help him. James looks up at you. Hey, I know this is a weird time and feel free to say no, but could I ask for a hug? You let out a small sigh of pleasant surprise. It seems like you could use it, but should you? Yes, it would help him. Do I say that out loud? It's kind of strange. You sit down on the floor next to James and wrap an arm around him, who nestles into the crook of your arm with a relieved sigh. You notice he smells amazing. It must be his hair. He pulls extra tightly into the embrace before slipping back out of it, leaving the two of you just leaning against a metal bulkhead in a random passageway on the moon. James looks over you. You know, it's hard for me. Everyone assumes I'm supposed to be young and brave, some unflappable, invincible youth, but I'm not. And some things are truly terrifying. I'm not any more courageous than anyone else. But I feel like you would actually understand me. So thank you. He smiles. He doesn't wait for you to say something back. You know what I'd like? I'd like the ability to fucking restart that chapter. And there, I will have to leave it. We're coming up to our time. I'm not really sure how much longer is left. So what I will say is, if you have enjoyed what we have been playing together, you can find more on choiceofgames.com. And there's a link there. From 2014 by Linea Glasser. And yeah, there's some details here. It actually costs $4.99 for the full game. But as you can see, we've had nearly 3 hours out of it so far. And I don't think we're finished quite yet. So I think it's well worth it. I will leave you hanging on there. Maybe I'll do a quick recap of what happens when I play through the rest. But I think it's time to move on to another game next week. So yes, I hope you enjoyed those 3 parts. We did not get to the end, but yeah, those 3 parts of Creatures Such as We. Next week, let me just open up the schedule. You should be able to find this on Twitch page as well, and also on YouTube, which will come up soon. YouTube does not let you schedule events too far into the future. Actually going to be doing a solo D&D game, Frozen Offerings by Paul Bimler. So do some solo Dungeons & Dragons. You can look forward to that. Something a little different from Creatures Such as We, that's for sure. If you've enjoyed this, then please leave a comment. Please share. Please subscribe to Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or wherever you watch this. And I'll be back next Friday with another game. And until then, enjoy your games, enjoy your interactive storytelling experiences, no matter who you play with. I've been Christian Chiller.